Right now, as you watch this, your body is being held down by a force so constant, you have never once questioned it. But somewhere, in a lab buried deep underground, a group of scientists ran a simulation nobody wanted to talk about. What happens if gravity just stops? Not weakens, not fades slowly over years. It stops, instantly, everywhere, all at once. In the next 15 minutes, you will watch humanity's final morning unfold, second by second. And by the end, you will understand why scientists call this the one scenario more catastrophic than an asteroid, more violent than a nuclear war, and far more certain to end everything within hours. This is not science fiction. This is what physics says would actually happen. We do not think about gravity. We do not thank it. We do not even notice it. But gravity is the only reason your feet touch the floor. It is the only reason oceans stay in their basins, and the only reason the air you are breathing right now does not drift away into space. It is the invisible hand holding together every single thing we call normal. And for over a century, physicists have quietly asked a terrifying question buried in the math of general relativity. What if that hand let go? Not aliens, not a bomb, not fire, just silence and weightlessness, everywhere, for every living thing on Earth at the exact same moment. Some researchers argue it is mathematically impossible. Others say certain quantum anomalies, if they existed, could theoretically create a localized gravitational shutdown. Either way, the simulations exist, and what they reveal is almost too disturbing to publish. Let us say it happens at 8 a.m. on an ordinary Tuesday. For the first tenth of a second, nothing looks different. But inside that tenth of a second, physics has already broken. The atmosphere, which gravity has held pressed against Earth for 4.5 billion years, begins to expand outward, not violently, just quietly drifting into space, like breath escaping a room with no walls. The oceans, no longer pulled downward, begin to lift off the ocean floor in enormous, silent domes of water. And every person standing, walking, driving simply lifts, shoes leaving pavement, a man's coffee cup drifting from his hand, coffee forming a slow-motion sphere in midair. There is no scream yet, no panic yet, just silence. And the terrifying realization that the ground is no longer holding you. Within 5 seconds, buildings begin to groan. Skyscrapers, designed to resist wind and earthquakes, were never designed to resist their own foundations lifting away from bedrock. Steel joints that have held firm for decades begin to twist under a stress they were never engineered for. Not the push of wind, not the shake of an earthquake, but the slow, relentless pull of their own mass trying to escape upward. Cars on highways, no longer held to the road by weight, begin to drift off the asphalt, tumbling in slow, silent spirals. Inside those cars, people are screaming, but even sound behaves differently now. Thinner, stranger, as the air around them starts to lose its density. Trains derail, not from crashing, but from simply lifting off their tracks mid-motion, still moving at 80 miles an hour, now with nothing to keep them on course. Bridges, built to hold weight downward, begin to buckle from the opposite direction, their support cables snapping one by one as tension reverses. But here is the twist almost nobody expects. It is not the floating that kills most people first, it is the air. Because as the atmosphere begins leaking into space, air pressure collapses. And the human body, every human body, is built to function inside a very specific pressure range. Within 15 seconds, people struggle to breathe, not because there is no oxygen yet, but because their own blood begins to boil at body temperature in the lowering pressure, a horrifying condition scientists call ebulism. Doctors who have studied high-altitude decompression describe the first symptoms with a chilling calm, a strange tingling under the skin, swelling around the eyes, a pressure behind the ears like diving too deep, except in reverse. Within 30 seconds, the swelling spreads. Capillaries near the surface of the skin begin to rupture, and still, through all of it, people are floating, weightless, suspended in a nightmare that looks peaceful from a distance but feels like drowning from the inside. Emergency broadcasts try to activate, but the satellites that carry those signals are drifting out of position too. Their orbits no longer anchored to anything predictable. There is no rescue coming. There is no shelter to run to, because the sky itself is leaving. What began as a strange, almost peaceful weightlessness has become a race against suffocation. And this is where the real truth becomes darker than anyone expected. Here is the detail most people never consider. The Earth itself does not just stop pulling on us, it stops holding together. Without gravitational compression, the planet's own internal pressure, the very thing keeping the mantle and crust locked in place, begins to release. Geologists who have studied this scenario describe it as the planet slowly unclenching. Each tectonic plate drifts outward like puzzle pieces, losing their frame. Volcanoes that have stayed dormant for centuries suddenly find nothing holding their pressure valves shut. Magma, no longer weighed down by miles of rock above it, begins to rise freely, not erupting in the way we know, but seeping upward in slow, silent plumes, defying every law we thought was permanent. Meanwhile, deep beneath the oceans, the water pressure that once crushed anything vanishes. Creatures built to survive in crushing darkness are suddenly exposed to nothing pressing on them at all. And for the first time in Earth's history, the deep sea and the surface become the same place. And the moon, our quiet neighbor, held in perfect orbit for over 4 billion years, no longer has anything holding it in place either. It begins to drift into deep space, taking with it the tides, the rhythm of the oceans, the very cycle life on Earth evolved around. But here's the detail that keeps scientists awake at night when they run this simulation. Gravity is not just a force acting from Earth. It is a force holding Earth together, atom by atom, layer by layer. Without it, the planet does not just lose its grip on us. It begins, ever so slightly, to lose its grip on itself. Every mountain range, every ocean trench, every single rock formation that took millions of years to compress into shape, all of it exists because gravity has spent billions of years pressing down, holding firm, refusing to let go. Remove that pressure, and the planet does not simply float. It starts, molecule by molecule, to come apart. Here is the revelation scientists come back to again and again in every version of this simulation. Gravity was never just a force holding us down. It was the reason atoms could form stars, the reason stars could form planets, the reason chemistry could become biology, the reason you exist at all. Remove it, even for a moment, and you are not just removing weight. You are unwriting the very conditions that made life possible in the first place. Within minutes, in this hypothetical world, the sky above every city would fill with drifting debris, disappearing water, and silence where sound used to be. And somewhere in that silence, we would finally understand something we have spent our entire existence ignoring: that we are not standing on solid ground because the universe owes us stability. We are standing here because for 4.5 billion years, an invisible force has quietly chosen to hold us together. So the next time your feet touch the floor or your coffee sits still on the table, remember, that is not nothing happening. That is everything, working perfectly all at once, just so you could be here to notice it. And honestly, if stories like this make you look at the world differently, this channel was made for you. But in the next documentary, we uncover what would happen if the Earth's magnetic field disappeared instead, and why some scientists believe we are already seeing the early warning signs.